one more minute to make sure that Jamie's all set to go. Anybody want me to close that door? Is that noise going to interfere with anything?
It's fine with me.
Okay.
If I hear it get noisy, I'll jump up.
Thank
How's
you,
that?
Mary. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. All right. It's 2:00, so I'll call the meeting to order. We don't have to do a roll call vote because we aren't remote. We are all in person. This is fantastic. We have everyone here in attendance, including our newest member. I'm going to
Yes.
jump ahead on the agenda
Nice.
down to new business and introduction of new members. So Tricia, if you want to introduce yourself to the
Sure.
group, and then we'll introduce ourselves to you.
I'm Tricia Murray. I moved to Harwich full-time at the end of 2018, but I've been a property owner since 2001, and my parents started renting here in 1971. So
Oh,
I
love
feel
it.
like I've been a long time. I've been in Harwich a long time. And I work at Community Development Partnership in their, I'm the manager of their business and credit program, so the focus is on economic development for small business owners. And I was actually updating my resume for that position, and I thought to myself, gee, I haven't done much volunteering since I moved to Harwich. I like to say I'm a recovering attorney, so I still do some legal service volunteering for weekend, but I was looking for something else to do, and I thought volunteering for this committee would be a great way to use my various skills. So I'm excited to be here.
We are
Welcome.
Yeah.
Thrilled to have you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Joy, do you want to go around the
Sure.
table really quickly and we can introduce ourselves to Tricia?
Sure.
My name's Joy Jordan, and professionally, I am the Community Engagement Coordinator for Monomoy Regional School District.
Okay.
I've worked in communications, marketing, publishing, journalism kind of throughout my career, and I've always had a passion for politics and government. That's actually what I majored in. So I am the next newest member. It's been a little over a year, I think.
Yeah.
Since I've joined the committee, and lived in Harwich for about 20 years, have 4 sons. That's about it.
Great.
Mary Anderson, I've been here 17 years. I moved here to take over the job as executive director at the pantry. After having retired from Verizon, my kids say I last about 5 years retired, then I have to do something else. So I retired from the pantry about 6 years ago, and a year ago I said I gotta do something, so I ran for selectman, and here I am. So I'm sort of your newest. Julie got elected after me, but she had previously
Yeah.
served a term or
Right.
two. So it's been, shall we say, interesting. Isn't that the
Right.
that curse? May you live in
Yeah.
interesting
Yeah.
times. So it's been very interesting, but mostly I really like it, and I'm your liaison to the selectmen. So I don't plan to come to every meeting. I don't think I should have my nose into your business. But if you need me, or if you could send me minutes so I can just stay up. But if you need something, I'll give you my email and cell phone so you can
Nice.
find me.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, thanks for being here. You certainly did pick an interesting time to run for the board, and yeah, the last couple of years have been interesting and challenging in different ways. I'm Emily Mylan. I've been on Voter Information Committee since 2015. I moved to Harwich about 15 years ago with my husband. We have 3 daughters. 2 have finished their time at Monomoy and gone on to college, and 1 still at the high school. And I am the assistant director at Brooks Free Library. I'm collaborating with you on a program that was wonderful timing. Yeah, and in the next couple of weeks. So I just recently took over as chair this year
For the trustees?
for this.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm on that board
Yeah.
as well, but
I
yeah.
thought so.
No, I recently took over as chair of Voter Information Committee, so I'm still kind of a newbie when it comes to running the meetings, and so feel free to.
Is the former chair part of the committee? Is it you, Krista?
Yes. Yep.
And another former
Chair.
chair.
Yes. So we'll continue around the
Yes.
table. All right, so on to you.
I'm Pam Grosswald. I actually restarted this committee back in the 80s when I got off it was before I got off the school committee. I've been on several town committees. a townie. I was born and raised here and educated here. So I've been around a long time. And when we restarted the Voter Information Committee, there were 2 of us. There were 5 on the roster, but we couldn't find the other 3. And I went to a couple of meetings and there was nobody there, and finally I said to Joanne, we have to figure this out. So we went down to the town clerk and she said, oh, well, there are others, but they never show up. And I said, I know they never show up, but how do I get a hold of them? And she said, I don't know.
I'm gonna close.
So I found someone else and I found them. They're at the cemetery. So I went back to the town clerk and I requested that we have new members. And she said, I can't advertise for new members until the old members officially resign.
Oh my goodness.
I said, but they can't resign. They live at the cemetery. It was pretty funny, but it took us a good 3 months before we could get ourselves up and running again.
Oh, my word.
So anyway, I've been on this committee for a very long time. It has changed, which is a good thing. We've grown, and I'm just thrilled that there are people on the committee who are tech savvy, and we just have a lot of different viewpoints.
That's good.
So it's very healthy. We're connecting with the community, and that's the most important piece.
Great.
So thank you for joining. I'm
Yes,
thrilled.
very nice, Trish. Yeah.
I'm excited.
So Chris Joyce, I retired 2001. So I've been retired for quite a while from a gas and electric company on the West Coast. So I'm a New England girl from northern Maine and moved here 2011. So whatever that is, 11 years ago.
Yep.
Got involved because I watched Joanne Riss and Peggy Rose on Channel 18 hosting a program. And I thought, well, they seem nice. And they have a vacancy, maybe I'll apply. So that's how I got here. I think I'm in my 9th year now here.
Wow.
In this, yeah. Okay,
All right.
very nice.
All right, so now we've all gotten to know a bit about each other. That's fantastic. I'll move on to vote to approve the minutes of January the 26th. Did we have any corrections?
Yes, I'm looking for, if on page 1, 4C, the last sentence, that's not really a sentence, I had question marks. There was a mention, I think, Joy, you made of mass comm, and I didn't know what it meant and how it fit into the discussion of publicizing our town, how to receive town communications. Did I just miss that totally? Well, okay, we could.
I mean, I
go.
remember the conversation in general
Yeah.
about the town's mass communications system.
I think
Oh,
that's,
that's
yeah.
what it
that's
is.
You
what
were
it was.
abbreviating.
And
I
that's
think
what it's
so.
called?
No, it's-
No,
No.
that's just the descriptor for it.
Got it, okay.
And it's,
Yeah.
the name is Regroup.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that correction,
Yep, and that is actually, yes, so with that correction, do I have a motion to approve the minutes with the correction regarding mass comm?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Oh.
Not yet.
it was
Soon though.
good of you.
All right, any public comment? No public comment? No public to comment? All right. Okay, so old business, at the last meeting, we reviewed and discussed a letter to go out to potential candidates, just to let them know, what Voter Information Committee does and how we can assist them leading up to the local election. Do we have any follow-up or anything else on that?
I think we said it looked good and we'd either email it or.
Yep.
Yeah,
So we have it ready to go? It's
think so,
on,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, perfect.
I'll shop it around one more time, how's that?
That's fantastic.
Okay.
That sounds great. So Trish, the idea was that letter was just to introduce ourselves to anyone who's potentially running for office, let them know what programs we do leading up to town meeting and the town election, and give them our contact information so they can reach out if they're interested, and we'll reach out to them. All right, so on to B, Know Your Town. I'll just give you a quick update on my progress. I'm
Yeah.
currently in the process of recording a series of podcasts with the chairs of various committees. I started with the regulatory committees, appeals, Board of Health, planning, water, wastewater, and the fifth one that I'm blanking on right at the moment. I reached out to the chairs of all of those committees. So far, I've scheduled a recording with Gary Carrero, the chair of water and wastewater, and I'm in touch with the vice chair of planning. We're working out details about when we can record that podcast, and I'm still waiting to hear back from the others. I did have a nice conversation with our town administrator, Joe Powers, on the 14th, where we talked about the podcast as well as our upcoming programming. And he gave us a nice little shout out at the board meeting on the 14th, asking the liaisons to reach out and, encourage chairs to participate in that recording. So that will be helpful.
I have a question, because we did this way back, and so this is a reboot, which is badly needed. And I found that several of the chairs really don't want to go on camera. So what we did instead was, if they didn't want to and there was no one from the committee who wanted to, then we asked if the appropriate department head would speak in their stead. And you don't get the same flavor, but at least you get representation from that particular committee. So
That's
you
a
might
great
have to do that,
Yep.
because some of those small committees, they will not go on air.
Yeah, that's a good idea. One thing I like about the podcast platform as compared to a video recording is it does take a little bit of the pressure off because you're not on camera per se, and we can edit. I can, if somebody gets really flustered, or we can stop, take a breath. You don't have to. It's not a continuous performance.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that worked out really well, getting the department heads to participate in that last round last year. But I think you're right. I think there may be a few boards and committees that I might reach out to the department head associated and ask them to participate, either in conjunction if that makes the chair feel more comfortable, or solo if that's the way we have to go.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Okay. Anything else about, any questions or suggestions about Know Your Town?
Just maybe in trying to get the committees, you could get a list from Ellen that shows where we have the most vacancies, and maybe try to get them first.
Yeah.
There still are a flock of vacancies.
Yeah. I have that list
You do
here.
have it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
We're hounds about following that list, oh my God.
Okay.
We might
It's
drive
not always
everyone a
up to
tad
date.
bit
No.
nuts with our, yes, that has been a problem in the past. It's been so much better, I would say, for the last year maybe. But yes, we do have that. And so we initially wanted to start with the regulatory boards and then from there move on to those with the highest vacancies, because
right.
part of we do want to recruit
Yeah.
vacancies, yeah.
I don't know if you want to put this under this item or,
The blurb, I love it.
yes, and talk a little bit about sort of the thinking, like, do we want to do sort of a preview when it's coming, and then when it's actually released, do something again?
Okay, I listed Regroup and podcast PR at the end of old business.
Oh, there it is.
Yep.
I was looking and I didn't see it. Okay.
Because
then
I
was
also
jumping
have
ahead. Yep.
printed out your graphic
Yeah.
Yes.
for Regroup.
I did too, how do you like my printing?
I know. Fit to page.
Yeah, I got that.
I know, I forget it a
instruction.
lot too. I forget it a lot too.
Okay,
All
then
right.
I'll save that.
Okay.
Good.
Discussions regarding efforts to boost attendance at town meeting and local elections. We had talked last time about doing possibly a voter registration drive. We've noticed a lot of the new patrons at the library. I am a stickler about asking when they're signing up for a library card if they've also registered to vote. So maybe doing a voter registration drive would be a good thing.
Do I recall when we had this conversation last time that somebody was going to check with the town clerk to make sure there wasn't any, overlap or?
There's been pushback before about our interfering in certain things, so I
Perceived
think
interference.
perceived, yeah.
So there is, I was going to save this for later too, but last night the board approved the appointment of an interim town clerk,
That's right.
James Mylan. I'm not sure, I think Anita's last day is the 28th, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, so that's next Monday, so maybe we wanna give him some time to settle in
Right.
and then approach him to see what his thoughts are.
Mhm.
What do we think? Does anybody want to take that on, contacting him?
I will.
Thank you, Chris.
And not to blur the lines too much, but I would love to find a way to include the high school kids.
Yeah.
Me too.
Because, and this is sort of a side issue, but it speaks directly to this. And I think you're familiar with how more and more parents are holding their kids back before starting, so that there are actually huge numbers of 18-year-olds even in 11th grade
Mhm.
and 12, you know, so
Yep.
the number of eligible voters is actually increasing in the high school. So any sort of collaboration we can come up with, you know, moving forward with some voter registration stuff would be good.
Yeah, Rich Houston and, well, of course, Rich is retired
Right.
now, but John Dixon does it as well.
Mhm.
They take their senior classes and make sure that they're registered to
Yep.
vote, and maybe the juniors as well, if there are any.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to collaborate with them.
Do I remember incorrectly that the counselors used to incur, or they had voter registration forms? Did I make this up?
I think there's some available in the guidance department, but I don't
Guidance,
know
yeah.
how often it comes up,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, not every student has Mr. Dixon,
Right.
and
Right.
Mr. Houston's gone, and, you know.
Yep.
But
I-
they all have, don't they all have to take a government course?
No.
Yes,
not
but
anymore?
it's in 8th grade.
Yeah.
No,
Not-
but
not,
this,
not later in their high school career.
okay, so we had to take one every year.
Yeah, they have
Okay.
some version of social studies and history, and some
Yeah.
of them focus more on government than others, but
Do they still have their own TV channel?
yes,
Okay, maybe we could coordinate with
Yeah.
that as
Yeah.
well.
yeah, they're always good about that, and it's all student-run and produced,
Right.
and, you know,
Right.
they love having little
Yeah.
projects and stuff, so.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a great
just something
idea.
to keep in mind
Nice.
as we're moving forward with planning. I think that would be a
Right,
good.
because we have dates, not in front of me, of the last day to register to vote for town meeting.
April
Yeah.
12th.
Oh, good for you.
April 12th.
Yeah, so,
If we did outreach to Monomoy, should we also be doing outreach to the Cape Cod Tech?
Yeah, that might get a little bit trickier, only because they're from,
All over.
all across the Cape, and not just Harwich.
But I bet they would, I think they'd appreciate the contact
Sure.
information.
Right.
Because all of those kids are going to be in the same situation in their own Cape Town.
Sure.
So
Right.
the only thing that would change would be the date.
Mhm.
But I agree. The
that's
more
a good idea, Trish.
more we, what about the Council on Aging? There are a lot of people here that are older who've just moved to town.
Yeah.
And they don't think to come and register to vote.
It's a very overworked group right now, I would say, but I'm on the Friends of the Harwich Council on Aging. I'm more than willing to check in with Emily.
That would be
Okay.
great.
Huh?
That would be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, other community kind of support groups like We Can and the Pantry, and places where people who might not be engaged in other ways
Mm-hmm.
are coming for resources, and it's a good way, I think, to access those communities and,
Yeah.
and encourage them.
So
The pantry used to have registration forms.
Oh, did
They did,
Nice.
when they'd register a new client, you know, we had a bunch of different materials and the volunteers would talk to them.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Oops.
I would talk to Pat Brophy and I'm sure he'd take some and
Okay.
put them in there.
Excuse me.
So that was
Do you
gonna
want me
be.
to email him?
I can
know
reach out
him.
with them,
Okay.
yeah, I've dropped some stuff off
Oh,
with
okay.
Christine the other day
Yeah,
to
okay,
insert for the schools, so
Chris would be fine
yeah.
too, yep.
So I'm wondering what the approach might be. Like, what's the best approach? Do we want to write like a press release about the deadline for registering and maybe attach the registration form and share that via email with some of these places?
Yeah, I think we can do that. I think to clarify,
Mhm.
is our goal to register just Harwich voters for the Harwich town elections, or state, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It
Right.
gets,
That is where it gets tricky. I mean, I think our goal has to be
Harwich.
Harwich
Right.
and the
Yeah.
412
And there'll be
deadline.
fallout, nice
Yeah.
fallout from
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
Okay.
I think we have to just be very careful in our, whatever communications, whatever discussions, is that it's very much just focused on that. Chatham doesn't have a parallel group to this, do they?
No.
No, not that I'm aware of. No.
And that's where it gets tricky, you know, as we said with tech, even with
Right, even with
the high
Monomoy.
school,
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
because it's not, or the Pantry or We Can or any of these organizations that serve multiple communities.
We are the Harwich Voter
Right.
Information
Yeah.
Committee, and it's our job to give out Harwich information, so there is a crossover, but we were gently reminded on several occasions that we have to stick to Harwich issues
Right.
and not
Yeah,
statewide
local.
issues
Right,
at
yeah.
all.
Right.
To be
I-
very
and I-
careful.
I guess I'm just wondering if it would then be more confusing to try to reach Harwich voters in some of these places where there's potentially voters from lots of different towns. You know what I mean, like, you know, sending it out to pantry people, or at the high
Right.
school, or, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
is that going to make it more complicated, and should we really narrow it to places where we know it's just going to be Harwich voters, if that makes sense?
I really like the idea of the outreach to the high schools. Maybe we don't do registration, maybe we don't do a registration drive, like we're not there with the forms, filling them out, collecting them, and
Yeah.
taking them to the town clerk, but we just offer to go and do, like a little 2-minute spiel on the morning announcements about how you go about registering to vote, just in a generic way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That, and that's actually very simple. In fact, there's even just an online form where you
Right.
submit
Right.
whatever you would like them to read on the morning announcements. So
Perfect.
that's something, you know, very
Perfect.
easy and straightforward, and in that we can be very
Yeah.
careful with our language and
Which-
say the
Yep.
date to register to vote in the Harwich
Which
town
town
elections
elections,
is
and-
April
yep.
Right.
12th, and just be very specific about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it can be online,
Mhm.
right? They can go to the Secretary of State, they can go to the town clerk,
Mm-hmm.
and then did we say we thought we'd provide some of the forms at certain places, or no? Did we say
Well,
that?
that's where I think it could get confusing.
I think we're going too
Yeah.
far.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think we have to be very
Nice.
careful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we'll just
Yeah.
approach it more as informational.
Yep.
that's nice.
I do think that you can say in any PR that we put out that this is the role of any public library. If someone's
Mhm.
looking for assistance registering to vote, or they're trying to find
Mhm.
any public library on Cape Cod, they can go to the reference desk, and that's a very common reference question.
It is, huh?
Mhm.
Yep. Yep. So if someone's having difficulty or doesn't have access to the internet to fill it out online, that sort of thing, I don't think that applies to the high school kids, but
Yeah.
the COA maybe.
Right.
Yeah, they can come to the library and we'll help them register online.
And in conjunction, I mean, with putting this material together, we can easily do a little write-up that the Council on Aging can put in their newsletter.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can
That
put it,
the
yeah.
community center can put in their
Yep.
newsletter. You know, there are ways we can repurpose that material.
Yeah. I think
It
if
just
we
has
have
the
the
kind of-
same letter
Right.
and
Yeah,
use it for everybody,
Right,
that'll.
here's how you do it,
Yeah.
here's the deadlines.
I think we could make a slide to give to Jamie for Channel 18 as
Yeah.
well. Do you mind writing that up? Thank you.
Fine.
And the newsletter for Council on Aging, it's
Yeah, it's,
really,
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I might have missed that.
they do that well in advance.
I know.
Yeah.
Can it get in for the April?
No, it's 2 months, so
Yeah.
March,
Oh.
April has gone to press,
I see.
yeah. But that's a good
It
calendar
may be
item
in
for
there.
next year.
It is, and if we made a flyer, I'm sure she'd be willing to
Oh.
post that, or, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes, like the Friday, the first Friday of the month, there's brown bags that they
Yeah.
put, we could slip
Stuff
a
in
flyer in,
Perfect.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be
Not
great.
necessarily ask them to do it, but help
Yeah.
with the volunteers, yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so we're gonna go
Nice.
with this informational approach, getting the word out to various community organizations
Mhm.
related specifically to Harwich voters.
Right.
Anything else about voter registration?
I
No?
think it makes sense.
Okay. So next up on the agenda is the local comprehensive plan. I don't have any new updates on this, since our last discussion in January. Has anybody else heard anything else? I haven't seen it on,
I haven't seen any meeting
Since the
information.
last on the Board of Selectmen.
The last conversation I remember is John Eidman telling us, I think he's got 20 or
Yes.
so
Mhm.
Yeah.
applicants,
Oh,
and
great,
looking to select 11 from the 20.
good.
But I don't know that that interview process has started
happened.
yet.
Yeah, that's the last discussion I
Same.
remember from the board as well. And I think that was prior to our last meeting, because I
Yes,
think
we
we talked
discussed it
about
at
it
the
then,
last
yeah.
meeting.
And he was
Yeah.
quite pleased at the breadth of experience and diversity. It wasn't all people from one particular,
Demographic.
yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, I'm thrilled. I'm
So-
really thrilled. That's fantastic news.
That's a huge job.
Yeah.
It is a big
Yeah.
job.
It's a lot of work.
It is a very big job. All right, so on to upcoming, current vacancies on town boards and committees. So I printed out the most recent copy that I have is from last week, February the 15th. It looks very similar. We've had a few new additions to the roster. I'm happy to see that voter information committee isn't on here anymore, but
Yeah, First time in 9 years.
first time in,
More than 9.
Well, maybe.
Way
Yeah.
For me.
yeah, yeah.
That's wonderful,
And
really.
none of them are dead.
Right? Fantastic news. Fantastic news. Yes, so it looks like the big one right now is Historic District Historical Commission is 6, 1 full member and 5 associate members. And the Planning Board, 2 full and 2 alternates. So those are the 2 with the most vacancies at this point. Followed by Agricultural Commission, the Forest Committee, and Youth Services and the Zoning Board of Appeals. So, but this list is, I'll just give you a quick visual,
Yeah.
much shorter than
Oh
it
my
has
goodness.
been in years past, because I feel like up until recently, it was a full page.
I remember
Right,
47 being the number.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
I'm curious about your services, because I'm on that committee as well, and I didn't realize we had any
In which one?
youth services,
Oh.
unless we've had people resign recently.
It says 2.
Yeah.
It says 2 vacancies on youth services and a total of 25 townwide. So that's
Good.
half of what it
Amazing.
has been,
Yeah.
which is
Great.
fantastic.
We were just fortunate enough to have 3 applicants for 1 spot on rec.
I saw
I
that.
saw that too.
So the Larry and Don, we're gonna go back to the 2 people that were not selected with the list and
Nice.
hopefully
See.
find another match.
Yeah, which would be
All
fantastic.
3 candidates were fabulous. And, might I say, they were all women.
Fantastic.
You may.
Fantastic.
Look at the
I
table.
know.
All right.
Good.
So I just want to share that list. We'll just keep this on as an agenda item so we can review it from time to time. Upcoming vacancies for the May 2022 election. I have Chris created this form for us back in January. Trish, I'll send you this electronically, so you
Okay,
have
great,
a
thank
copy
you.
of it as well. I don't have a spare copy with me.
You can have this, cause I kinda know it.
Do you have it memorized?
Well, a few of them I have memorized.
Yeah, I'm sure, I'm sure. So we have 2 selectmen who will be up for re-election. Michael McCaskill's position on the board and Julie Kavanaugh's was a 1-year term. So I don't know, does anybody, this is typically when we share if we have news that someone has taken out papers or is planning to.
Well, I know-
Well, Jeff Handler.
Right,
And
and
Julie.
Julie said
And
she's,
Julie.
yeah.
Julie's
Okay.
and hers.
Okay. All right.
And I was at somewhere where Julie was getting signatures.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. And then Water Wastewater Commission, Judy
Mhm.
Underwood's. I haven't heard whether or not she is
She
going.
has.
She has?
Yeah,
Okay,
And
good.
She was
she
getting-
also was getting signatures
she
over the
was.
weekend.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Both of the trustees.
was just double checking something.
Bill Kroll and Bernadette Waystack both have taken out papers and are collecting signatures.
Good.
I haven't heard that anybody else is, so those may be uncontested. And then the Harwich Housing Authority, one per town clerk, committee webpage differs. We weren't 100% sure about that one. Do we have any follow-up?
No, I think I forgot to.
Okay. And then school committee, Tina Games.
She took out papers.
Oh, excellent.
As did Ryan Clark.
Ryan Clark.
He's a I call him still firefighters, but I think he's a captain.
In Harwich?
No, in Chatham.
Oh,
But
okay.
he lives in East
Harwich,
Harwich,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So both have, I understand, have taken out papers. I know for sure Tina did.
Okay.
Yep, and then someone told me Ryan did.
Excellent.
Ryan is our former fire chief's son.
Yes,
Right.
yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
and Tommy Clark's brother. Then I would imagine, yeah, that would add up. Okay, and our town clerk
Yeah.
is retiring as of the 28th. We'll have an interim, but I don't know about the election. Haven't heard.
He's taken out papers.
He
Phil
has.
Goodell.
Phil has. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right, I'm behind on my news.
I would think that one would be very popular,
That position?
that position, it comes available so infrequently.
Yeah.
But
And
there's a lot of,
good job.
a lot of requirements that go
Yeah,
with it, so
yeah.
that's the key.
Well, I don't think there are in terms of, I could sign up to run.
Yes, but you still have to get
Pass
certain
the-
certificates.
As
Yeah.
you're in the position,
Yes,
right?
yeah, and that's what's
Oh.
slowing
Yeah.
candidates down.
Okay. So, there's still about a month. We have until the 25th of March. People can take out nomination papers, and the last day to turn them in is then the 29th. That'd be
Mhm.
a fast turnaround on collecting those signatures, but, then the last day to register to vote is the 12th of April. Town meeting,
You don't think that's right, do you?
what, the
Oh, no, April
No, it's-
12th, that's
it's
right,
right.
yeah.
No, actually, I was getting ahead of myself. So the town meeting is slated for the 2nd of May, but we don't have the election date, and I don't know off the top of my head
Oh,
what
I bet I
that
do.
would be.
May,
It's
It's
the
the
week
17th.
after.
It's
yeah,
the
week
17th.
after.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. So May 17th will be the election. So
Are we going back to the Tuesday again, or,
For election,
election and also the town meeting?
Well,
it's
I'm
a Monday.
That's a Monday.
it is a Monday. I'm
Yeah.
assuming it may be multiple days, but we won't know until we see the warrant.
It's
Right.
just, it was so successful the last 2 years outdoors.
On the
And having
weekend.
it all done on one day was
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah,
In daylight.
In daylight,
and
right.
not being up until midnight.
Right.
Chatham kept it on a Saturday.
Yeah.
I think they moved
That's
it to
why
a
I-
Sunday
yeah.
because of rain. But,
Yeah, Mary, do you know if there's any consideration of keeping
don't
it that
know.
way?
I don't know, but I can inquire.
I
I
think
That would be a
it's-
good
yeah,
thing to
It's on the
know.
web page of the town clerk's web page as Monday the 2nd,
Monday,
Yeah.
oh,
yeah.
too bad.
So does that mean it's locked,
I don't
do you
know.
think? All right,
Well, I
well, I can ask.
believe-
I think, go.
Oh, no. Well, so at that town meeting session held by, is it the Cape Women's Collaborative?
Yeah.
In the fall, there were a number of folks from different towns that talked about that, and a few towns said that they didn't find it as successful, and they weren't aware of anybody who was permanently making that change, and my
Mhm.
understanding is that the town, you can jump in if I'm wrong, the town charter specifies
Oh, yeah.
that it's that Monday,
Mm-hmm.
and these Saturday sessions were special exemptions under COVID guidelines,
yeah.
and so for anything to change more permanently, it would
Be
mean
a
that the
charter
charter
change.
itself had to
Ah.
change, and I think that alone is discouraging to a number of towns to even consider, going
Well,
through
yeah.
that to change the day. So I'm assuming Chatham has done it still under the COVID exemption, but that's all I have to contribute.
So really, if it were something that someone wanted to pursue, it would need to go to the bylaw charter review
and that's not gonna
That's
make it.
not
And that's
gonna
not
make
gonna
it
make
this
it
No,
year.
through,
because-
yeah.
Cause
Yeah.
I think
That would be
you
a-
vote it once and then it's
You
the
should-
following
right.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Fiscal year.
So
Yeah.
even if that did happen, it would take some time
It's
to
a
implement.
process, yeah.
I do just, from a personal perspective, prefer the Saturdays.
Mhm.
Me too.
As, you know, someone who's working and then having to rush home, and my kids are older now, but get things ready and then
Yeah.
be back here for 7 o'clock and then be here until midnight if I'm able to make it that late.
Oh, yeah. Cause
I agree.
I think it's certain it's the second,
Yeah.
because all the timing from the Board of Selectmen
Right.
and the.
Right.
Backs
Art
off
of-
from,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
from that
you're
date.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty well set in stone.
Yeah, I think so.
But maybe in the future.
Yeah, I loved the Saturday.
I liked it too.
There, I
I
think
like
we
the
hear pluses and minuses about
Yeah.
it though,
Mhm.
like,
yeah.
yeah. I think old people like me might like it too, but families who have scheduled sporting events or, I don't know,
Yeah.
I mean, the problem with that is just as true during the week,
probably, yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
we've talked before about the childcare issue,
Yeah.
which is a fantastic offering and very well-intentioned.
Mhm.
But the sort of catch-22 about it is that if your kids are young enough to require childcare, they're gonna be in bed
Yeah.
long before town meeting ends.
Right, right,
So-
right. They
It-
should be in bed.
Right,
Yeah.
so it's, when my kids were young enough to require a babysitter, I
Mhm.
wasn't gonna have them at an event that started at 7
Right.
and could conceivably have them in a strange, gym or
Right.
activity room until 10 or 11 at night,
Right.
like
Yeah.
that.
Right.
I think it's great that it's offered, but it just doesn't actually solve.
Yeah, it's
The
not
true-
realistic.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a realistic solution.
Right, and those
Yeah.
same folks that say they have, sporting events and stuff on a Saturday, those are weeknights, every night, Little
Yeah,
League
right,
is every
right.
night of the week,
Right, yeah.
hockey practice is every night of the
Yeah.
week, so,
Mm. Yeah.
some of those are just slightly insurmountable, but.
Yeah, I don't know what
But a
this,
good reason to go to the one day.
I think one day
The
is,
one day.
yeah,
Yeah,
You
fantastic.
get more people showing up.
Well, and has it not always been, I mean, this is anecdotal, I don't have data to back it up, but has it not always been that attendance drops with every passing day? So
Yes.
Monday you
Yes,
have
it
your
does.
highest level of it,
Right,
and then
half as many the
Tuesday,
next,
and then you're
half again.
hoping for a quorum so that you can have
Yep.
that final night meeting.
They
And
used
that's
to,
150, that's not a lot.
Oh my goodness.
they used to, the police department would get in their cruisers and they would go to the local bars and they'd go to the ball fields and say, please come to Rochester, we need a quorum. I don't know if they do that
Funny.
anymore, but they used to.
Oh my goodness.
It's pretty funny.
Funny.
Hey, so that has me thinking, we have a 2022 version of that. We can use Regroup to send out reminders
yeah.
about it. Ahead of the fact, not when we're,
Right.
desperately trying to
Yeah,
get a
right.
quorum, but to hopefully boost attendance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, now with Channel 18,
yes,
you
that's
can
huge.
just go
Yeah.
on Channel 18 and say, please,
Please,
get
yeah.
in your car and come up to the town,
Yeah.
the community center.
Yes, and now Channel 18 is available streaming
Oh,
as
right.
well, so even people who don't
Right.
have cable anymore can
Yes.
access it,
Yeah.
which is
I love that.
fantastic. Yeah, me too. All right, sorry, I'll bring us back
Okay,
to
no,
back
we're
on
good.
topic. Okay, so we talked about upcoming vacancies. Later on in the agenda, we're going to talk about actual programs. So I'm going to keep this handy because we'll need to refer to that when we start planning our programming leading up to the election. But before we move on to new business, Chris, you were going to look into. We talked about the availability of recordings at public
Yeah.
meetings.
I looked at, I didn't do the entire list,
Sure.
but the ones, and my focus has been more, impact and money, in various ways of looking at that. So, I don't know if youth services, who's on youth service, I don't think you're taped, are you?
Nope.
Yeah,
We're an
So-
Albro House, so.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then, the bylaw charter committee isn't taped. It was when they moved into the small conference room, but I think they moved back into the library at Town Hall.
Okay.
And then the Brooks Free Library trustees.
Yep.
And Brooks Academy Museum Commission. So those are four that I feel are important, for the public to,
Well, and with the sunshine law, I thought they had to be.
Well, I think it's also a Channel 18 goal, and, you know,
Right.
Jamie and I, you know, are
Right.
working on some of that, but, you know, Brooks Academy Museum, lots of money this year, right? A big project, part of the foundation, restoration, Brooks Free Library, trustees, loaded. Lots of money, no,
No,
but.
I wish.
Yeah.
Wow. If
Yeah.
we could speak things into being.
Right.
Manifest
it.
Yes, right?
Not easily
Right?
spent, some of it, I understand, right, yeah.
No, a lot of those trusts are restricted to like books on Abraham Lincoln, and you know, there's not a lot of new stuff being published about Lincoln, surprisingly.
Really?
Yeah, and one of the difficulties with that is that, you know, the trustees really need to see operationally what's happening in the building. And, you know, it's our opportunity to show off new collections and
Yeah.
things that we've done, so that makes it difficult
Do you
to
meet
give up our meeting
downstairs?
space. Yes,
You
and
do.
I met with Jamie
Mhm.
recently to talk about our options for that meeting space.
Good.
Yeah.
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 And I
so
think the
that's
same
in
is
the
true
works.
of youth services, because it allows Sheila to show off, you know, where
Right.
she's seeing
Right.
clients,
Right.
and sometimes there's materials there for programs that she's,
Yeah.
you know, leading and that sort of thing. So I think that's
The other
a similar
thing-
reason why it originated there.
The other thing about youth services is we know there's increased depression, suicides, and it would be nice, not nice to hear about it, but you know what, from the horse's mouth, you know, trends that your committee and she is seeing, versus, you know, picking it up in a newspaper that can sometimes seem a little sterile.
Sure.
Right.
So that would be a committee that I'd love to see.
Well, and that would give
Zoomed,
them,
if you zoomed and taped it,
yeah.
you know, even if nobody was, not, even if everyone
Right.
was at the meeting, but then, we would be able to see that. I don't mean to pick on your group, but any of the groups, really.
But it's a good way for the public
Zoom, I said, Zoom.
to know what's happening in these meetings, and then the public is more apt to vote in a positive manner at town meeting if they see them in operation. If everything is done behind closed doors, you don't know. And a lot of people, the biggest criticism is that people attend town meeting and they have no idea. They don't know what's on the warrant, they don't know what's been proposed, and they say, oh, it's the first time I heard of this.
Yeah.
Whereas these committees have been working their tails off for a very long time to get to the town meeting itself. So I think we have to help people look at it in a more positive way.
Would it be appropriate for me to mention it at our
Yeah,
next meeting?
yeah.
Okay, I don't wanna.
Sure. And I
Ross.
said Zoom, but I think I meant go to meeting, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the other option, and maybe this is something I can talk to Sheila about as well, is she, along with Sharing Kindness and Cape Cod Suicide Prevention Coalition and a couple of other, I think DMH and some other organizations just did a forum at the library last week, and maybe a review of some of that material on Channel 18 would be beneficial as
Yeah.
well. And, you know, if Sheila wanted somebody to kind of, you know, discuss that with in a more conversational way, maybe we could work out something. Because I think you're right, that topic in particular right now is definitely something that, you know, we had this discussion at the school council meeting, the community is grieving as a whole with these families and with the school community, over both these losses and Nauset and, you know, other area schools, so.
And I wouldn't know, I mean, I don't know who committed suicide, but I know because, I knew something happened because I'm friends with a teacher. And, you know, it's very subtly said, but it's crushing, it's just crushing. And on another note about these committees, they'd get, wonderful support, I mean, you know, from, we know what they're doing, and when their budgets come up before Board of Selectmen and FinCom, we get I think it's great PR for them, that we get to
Yeah.
know what they
Right.
do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And we're one of the only towns that provides this service.
know.
And oh my gosh, mental health support is so
Yeah.
needed across the Cape and the country, but you know, really something that we're lacking here and desperately need. And
Yeah.
Sheila, does an amazing job.
I think
Yeah.
our next meeting is next week, so I will mention it
Okay.
and see.
Okay.
You know, I don't know the sort of process
Right.
by which
Yeah. I think she would need if
that would have to
yeah.
happen.
If you chose to have a new meeting place where you could be recorded, Chris is right. The option is to do like a hybrid go to meeting for as long as that's a possibility, or to book one of the meeting rooms or this room.
Right. And my understanding, it might have changed, but I thought all of those provisions expired in April
Yeah, I think that they do. But you know,
for the remote meetings.
yeah,
I mean.
for remote meetings. And youth services, I was on that committee many years ago before voter information committee, and at that point we met in the old high school. So you know, they might be open to meeting somewhere
Yeah,
else.
I'll bring it up
Yeah.
at our next meeting.
Okay.
And report back.
All right. Thank you for that information, Chris.
Yep.
Um,
I'll continue going through the,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I would like to go to a bylaw charter meeting at some point, as well as the Brooks Academy Museum Commission, because like, as you said, there's a lot going on. There's gonna
Yeah.
be a lot of discussion around that Brooks Academy project as we go into town meeting.
right.
So.
And they're
yeah.
meeting on Wednesday the 2nd at 9:30 at the Brooks Academy
Okay.
Museum.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I might have to reschedule some things to make that happen, but that would be great. All right, so I did follow up with Jamie after our last meeting. She said that right now she thinks that we have about 30 active committees in town, and of those 30, she would estimate that about 20 to 22 are being recorded. So on top of these 4 that you mentioned, there's maybe a small handful of others who aren't being recorded at this point.
Yeah, like agriculture.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
we could also, if you don't wanna do them all individually, there are some that are very similar.
Yeah.
And maybe they'd be more amenable to meeting with 2 or 3 other.
Grouping them together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
And then
for the podcast.
Podcast,
yes,
yeah.
The
yeah.
podcast.
Yeah. Okay, that's a great idea. All right, so speaking of podcasts, that's up next on the agenda, the Regroup and podcast PR. So that I'm gonna hand over to Joy.
Yeah.
Yeah, these were just 2 things that we had taught, and I don't know if you.
I saw the logo.
We had talked about trying to get some communications out on 2 different fronts. One about the podcast series, just so folks know that it's coming and then that it's released. And then we talked about what a sort of great resource the town mass communication system is. And I mean, I can't tell you how often I'm talking to people and they say, oh, I got this, document or this update emailed from the town, and people say, how do you get the town to email you what's going on? And this is how you sign right up. And especially, I think for perhaps younger folks that are used to doing everything through their phone and having everything kind of pushed out to them, this is a really great way to reach those folks. So we talked about putting together just some graphics that can go on the library, website and Facebook page, on the voter information website, wherever we want to share them out. So this was the first pass. So this graphic is actually what the town uses on its website about this information, and then just sort of added some more in. You can tell I printed this on my home printer, hence the poor quality. So I am open for feedback, comments, and then same on this little announcement. The Chronicle's really good about sharing that sort of thing out, as well as some of the other local outlets. And I think it would probably, once we have a better idea of the dates, maybe, I think that's the tricky part,
Yeah.
since we can't say exactly when it's coming. I mean, we could do something like this now that just says it's coming
Coming
soon.
soon, yeah.
And then when we have an actual release date, share it out
Yeah.
then, kind of do a two-pronged approach, but,
I think that's a great approach because there is the whole last season of all of the
Yeah,
right, people can go check
podcast
it out.
recordings with all of the department
Yeah.
heads, and so that would be something that people could listen to in the meantime if they're
Yeah.
so inclined.
Mhm.
So I think that's a great idea, the two-pronged approach. I
Okay.
do want to send you. I made a note right around as we were discussing this. Our contract changed. So Civic Ready was the parent company. It's now been sold to someone else. So the new name is Regroup.
Okay,
So this logo has been changed.
Okay.
Actually, the logo itself may be the same, but the name has
graphic.
changed.
Okay.
So it's not Civic Ready, it's Regroup.
Regroup.
So I made a note to send you the link to, Jamie helped me find it, Jamie Goodwin helped me find their help page, and there's a lot of,
okay, is it all
Material
updated
there.
on the,
I did mention that to Jamie and
Okay.
Caleb, I have not double checked, so I'm gonna make a note to double check.
clearly I haven't looked once I created this and sent it off to everybody.
Yeah.
I did mention it to Jamie and Caleb after you sent this, and they were going to update it, so I'm sure if it hasn't happened yet, it's in the works.
Okay,
But I'll double check before we start sending this out or
yeah,
sharing
I
it.
can check
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah,
And this part was, I kept getting tripped up. I wanted Harwich Voter Information Committee
Yep.
to be on there. Prepared isn't, I think, exactly right. But I couldn't,
just get rid of prepared by the,
and just have Harwich Voter Information Committee.
I'm too simple, right?
But I think simple's best. Too many words, you lose people.
right, I just didn't want it to imply that this service was a
Is
service
ours.
of the
Right.
Harwich Voter
Yeah.
Information
Right.
Committee.
Yeah.
So I was trying to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So what if you just said shared instead of prepared?
Prepared,
that's-
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I like
Oh,
that.
That's
Yeah.
good,
Nice.
yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Nice.
So, once I get you the updated, logo, if we can
Right, redo
just
that.
redo that, then I think we can share it with Jamie to put on Channel 18 and we've talked about those other avenues, the library
Yep.
newsletter, I'll update our voter information committee webpage. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know
other-
the community center uses their Facebook page,
Yep.
so I'm
We
sure
can
they would share it out.
Yeah,
All of
Yeah.
those different things. I think anything helps, because it's such an easy service.
Yeah.
And,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
got the budget emailed to me.
Right.
Yeah.
The stuff just comes right to you,
Yeah.
and it's so
and I
helpful.
think you're right, there is a demographic that's used to having that information pushed to them and having to go and look for it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I think, we've talked about this a little bit with the whole idea of kind of teaching people how to do town meeting. A lot of people don't even know what they would be going to look for, you know what I mean? So I think the
Mhm.
more that stuff can just go directly to them, and then they'll say, oh, I didn't know that this
Okay.
was even a thing,
Right.
so.
Mhm.
All right, so I will make those edits. Is
Okay.
everybody good with this?
Yes.
The
that
language was
looked great.
fantastic, yeah.
Yes.
All right, so
Yeah.
I'll send it out sort of as is to the
Yep.
papers now, and then once we get closer
Perfect.
to having an actual date, we can kind of push it out again.
Perfect,
And
yes.
then we'll be in good shape.
That sounds
Good.
great. Thank you very much. All right, so moving right along to new business. We've already introduced our new member. I moved that ahead. Did everyone get the email from the town clerk's office regarding the summary of the conflict of interest law?
Yeah.
Does anybody want a printed copy?
Did I give you
It's-
my signed one?
No, I have the thing here
Oh.
for us to all to sign, but I
Yeah.
had extra copies that we printed for library staff. Anybody want it, you can have it. Otherwise, before you leave today, if you don't mind just signing, saying that you, and I will submit this to the town clerk's office. And Tricia, thank you for sharing your certificate for the completed, training program with me.
We're
And I
all,
turned
we're
it
all up to
into,
date on the
the
program
clerk.
itself,
Yeah.
aren't we?
We are all up to date. This is not a year that we have to retake the
Yeah.
ethics test.
So,
Yay! Except for Tricia, who had to, because
Right.
she's new. So yeah, if you don't mind passing that around, you are right.
bring
Good.
my glasses.
I know.
Right here.
Yep, you're right there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I will submit this once it's signed to the town clerk's office. So next and most importantly, we have our upcoming program. So I'm just going to quickly go through the list to give Tricia an idea of kind of what we do on an annual basis. I reviewed our plans with Joe on our call on the 14th, and he was fine with that. He did suggest that maybe I said, what big topics are on the agenda for this year that we need to get information out to the voters? And he felt like the Monomoy Regional School District agreement, the changes to the agreement, which we had discussed at the last meeting, we knew that would be a topic of interest. So Tricia, typically during the lead up to town meeting, we do the same standard programming for the most part. We do a financial state of Harwich where we invite the town administrator and the finance director to come and just kind of give us a general overview of the budget. You know, what they're forecasting, thank you. What they're forecasting in terms of revenue and, you know, a big picture of the budget, not line by line. Then we do a warrant review once the warrant is finalized. For the most part, we typically always have,
During
think back.
COVID-
I know, things
During
were so
COVID, we
different.
just had Carol Capola
Right,
and Joe.
right,
But in the past, we invited department heads in.
right. It was more of
Right.
like a panel, just like they could
Yeah.
come in and, for example, if the library had
Yeah,
our restoration project
Right.
that year, you know, our department head came in and talked about that, because it was a big item on the warrant. The last couple of years, we've had to modify things because we couldn't necessarily gather in a group, but hopefully this year that will be a little
yeah,
more
because
flexible.
we'd have the
Yeah.
fire chief in for,
The police
yeah,
chief,
for
the,
their vehicles or
yeah,
whatever, yeah.
often the school, the superintendents of both the tech
Mhm.
and Monomoy would come in. Was that a part of the budget
No,
meeting?
Well,
financial, I thought.
yeah, we did it.
That was
We did
financial.
it a couple
Yeah.
of ways, yeah.
Yeah. This year it might be part of the warrant review as well if we have, you know, changes to the regional school agreement on the warrant.
Yeah.
That's
Well-
gonna be a warrant article, right?
Right.
And if there's
Yeah.
ever a Prop 2.5,
Yes.
that
Right.
definitely would be
Yeah.
something to.
And
Yeah.
we don't.
It's
and-
basically town meeting homework is what we're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah,
It
we're
just-
giving them preview.
And where do you, how are these meetings or programs held? Are they?
So often the financial state is recorded at Channel 18, recorded here in the studio. Typically Pam is kind enough to volunteer to moderate that program and meets here with the town administrator and the finance director. And they record that and it's on Channel 18 and YouTube, and we put a link to it on our webpage. Typically pre-COVID, the warrant review was in the Griffin Room, the main meeting room at Town Hall, and it's open to the public. It's also recorded and can be watched after
Right.
the fact.
But it wasn't participatory.
But it wasn't
Right.
participatory,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
we would have, yeah, right. And we would come up with a schedule of which department head spoke when.
Right.
Well,
Then- yeah.
with their help.
And then our third program, typically are candidate interviews and forums. So we do interviews for the non-contested races. So for example, the trustees, we have 2 openings, they're both running for re-election. If they're uncontested, then we just do interviews. When there's a contested race, though, we then do a forum, with the help of the League of Women Voters. They typically will send someone to moderate, and we time and collect questions and, you know, do other things, but they take the lead on that, which is really nice. And then this year, there was some feeling that we might want to include a 4th program specifically related to the Monomoy Regional School District agreement.
Yeah.
Right.
Excuse me.
So,
Should we be looking at dates now or, yeah?
I think we're gonna have to start booking things
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah,
quickly
that-
because our next meeting isn't until the end of March, and typically, we have these programs in April. April tends to be our busy month.
Right.
So I think we do need to be looking at a calendar and looking at some dates. I'm happy to try and coordinate with,
Excuse me.
that's okay.
Yep.
I'm happy to coordinate with the administrative office at Town Hall to see if I can book rooms, but I kinda wanted to go through them one by one and see who might be willing to moderate or take the lead.
I'll do the financial one
Okay.
again.
All right. And typically, I'm trying to remember, I don't have the deadline for the warrant.
Me
Do we know
neither.
when?
The,
It has
the
to be-
financial I want as close to town meeting as
As
possible, because
We always have
those
to-
numbers change on a daily
Right.
basis, so we
Okay.
wanna be as fresh as we can.
Okay,
And I believe I need to recuse
Recuse
myself.
Yeah.
From any of these.
yeah.
From
Yes,
any of them?
I think
Yeah.
so. Well,
Because you're on the school. No.
right,
work
because
for
I
the
work
school.
for the school
Yeah.
district. So obviously the regional agreement forum, I
Oh, yeah.
couldn't moderate.
Yep.
It's on the warrant, so I can't be a
Yeah.
part of that.
Right.
Yeah, financial
the-
state has typically only just been one
Right.
moderator anyway, but
And if we have a contested school committee race,
yeah. However, for the Board of Selectmen and the interviews, as
Right.
long as they're not related to the school
if
committee,
we
would
do
you
it
be?
separately,
Okay,
I can help with that for
Okay.
sure.
Right.
I
Okay.
just wanna make sure.
perfect. We've
I-
swapped out before when we've done, like, I know there were
Mhm.
years that Peg and I did the interviews,
Right.
some interviews, yeah.
Yeah.
Cause I typically recuse myself from the trustees as well.
Yeah, and I'm
Unless, if
happy,
it's contested,
particularly interviews, I'm happy to do
Yeah,
that. I
I
mean,
don't
I
think
have a journalism background, so like
Nice.
that part would be
Perfect,
a piece of cake.
all right.
Wherever you can slot me in that is not gonna
Mm-hmm.
create
Okay.
any appearance of conflict.
Okay.
Right.
I
All right.
promise Larry.
That makes sense.
If you want, I'll do the warrant review,
Okay, thank you.
but if anybody,
We also include the chairman of the, finance committee.
Yes,
on that
thank you. I did not say that.
Yeah.
So TA, FinCom Chair.
Yeah.
And, our Finance Director, Carol.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Chris, you're gonna do the warrant
if
review.
you'd like me to, yes. yeah.
Timing, do you have any travel plans for April that I need to avoid dates?
No.
No, okay. And we'll wanna do that in the Griffin Room.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a preference, daytime or evening, if we're able to have it open to the public this year, although it's not participatory?
I would do daytime,
Okay,
and it's a tough room to get sometimes.
it is, so we'll do the best we can,
Yeah.
okay. All right, and then the Monomoy Regional Agreement, I'll take that one, I'm gonna have to
Nice.
do some homework. Trish, do you wanna join me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
And I can sit in on that too.
okay, perfect,
I
cause you have
was-
the school committee
Yeah,
background.
yeah.
Okay, that'd be great, so the three of us, and I'm assuming we want to include Scott and, Michael McMillan, thank you. Michael McMillan, okay,
And is Michael
He's the business manager.
Did-
yeah,
oh, I was thinking of
and maybe,
Cape Tech, sorry. That,
yeah,
it seemed to me we had though, a committee member from Harwich also. Am I wrong about that?
For what,
For the regional, I mean, we've never done the regional agreement, but
right.
when we've done the school stuff.
Oh, I think we did have, for the tech, we have,
Oh, that's
the
right.
Harwich
Reps.
rep
Reps,
on
yeah.
their school
Right,
committee.
that's right,
Yes,
yeah.
we have always invited them
Yeah.
typically. Okay. Anybody else that I'm missing on that? Should I, reach out to, is Tina the school committee chair?
No.
No, Meredith Henderson.
Meredith Henderson.
Yeah.
Should I reach out to the school committee chair for that as well,
I
our
think
Harwich
so.
rep?
I
Okay,
think so. What do you think? Oh, maybe I shouldn't ask you. What do you think, Mary?
I'll reach out to Meredith as well.
We've always had somebody from the, school committee
Yeah,
and the tech school as well, so.
for the financial.
No, wait a minute.
I know, I'm trying to think too, because it's been
We
a-
did
We-
for the financial, and
Okay.
it-
We did.
it's sort of,
That's right.
Yeah.
Because we would have Terry on,
yes,
remember?
yeah.
All right, so schools and school committee for the financial as
Yeah.
well. All right, so I'm gonna go home and organize myself and put together a little spreadsheet of, the programs, the committee members from our committee that are moderating, who we're going to invite, when we'd like to schedule these. So,
And I'll go along with whatever date.
okay, you don't have any for the financial,
I'm
okay.
retired, I can do what I want.
I don't know, you don't have any travel
don't drive,
plans?
but-
Well, we can figure that out.
It's all right, I can get there.
Okay, perfect. Do we have, so the candidates forum, we typically do,
We have to do the
we have to let the
interviews
lead know.
right,
before the forum.
but that typically is May, right, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, we can skip, we can do it after
Town meeting,
Yeah.
okay. That buys us some
It
time
does.
and
Little
helps us
wiggle
not be so crunched, so we'll shoot for May for that,
But before May 17th.
but before May
Right.
17th, yeah. And we'd like to give it a couple weeks so that if people can't come in person, they have time to watch the recording at
Yeah.
least. But, so I'll put that one on the back burner and not worry about scheduling, that quite yet. But the Monomoy Regional Agreement, I feel like that one, I don't know that a lot is going to change as far as that's
I
concerned.
don't think so.
No.
I feel like it's been negotiated and debated and discussed
And discussed.
and discussed,
Yeah.
so,
So basically,
maybe
a
we could-
report is what
Mhm.
you need instead of, yeah.
I'd like some time to do my due diligence and
Oh, yeah.
become more familiar with
Right.
it.
Yeah.
But I
The,
think that we could start there. It doesn't have the same time constraints that the budget and the warrant do.
Mhm.
Not last night's meeting, but I think
The
it was a
prior,
week
yeah.
ago. Scott Carpenter
Yep.
and Michael, I forget his last name, did a presentation,
Mhm.
and it was brief and thorough, so you
Mhm.
might wanna take
Start
a
there.
look at that.
Yeah.
That was the
That's,
14.
they usually use the same thing
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
both, so.
Yeah.
I can say that all of the materials are on the website.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But some of the packages were gazillion
Yes,
pages.
yeah.
That one was very
Yeah.
concise
Good.
Executive summary.
and yet got to the point.
Right.
All right. Yeah, and that was the 14th. That's the one board meeting I haven't watched since the
If you
start
can't
of the
find
year.
it, call me and I'll find it
Okay.
for you.
Emily,
Perfect. Thank you.
I
Yes.
have a Zoom meeting at 3:30.
Yep. Okay, let's
It's-
wrap it up.
It's not your fault.
Let's wrap it up.
My life.
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll put together a little spreadsheet, I'll share that information with you guys, I'll start reaching out to the town administrator's office to get those meeting rooms booked. Our next meeting isn't until the 23rd, so that's gonna be, like, our next meeting is gonna be wholly dedicated to these programs,
Yes,
cause we're
right.
gonna have a lot to go
Right.
over.
Yep.
And I may, we may need to follow up and tie up some loose ends on these other things just via email, like sending out the PR, if you'll just copy us and let us know that, so we know that it's done, and then we can tie up loose ends on that. Sound like a
Love it.
plan?
It's a plan.
All right. Tricia, one last question, and then we'll go. If this meeting time can be adjusted if it needs to be, so if Wednesday afternoon at 2:00 is not the best time for you, that we can certainly adjust that.
I am fortunate that I have some autonomy with my schedule, so I can, if I miss an hour from my workday, I can, make it up.
Yeah.
I do have a standing once a month meeting, which I was a little concerned. I thought there might be a conflict, I need to check. But it starts at 3, so even if we could push our start date like 15 minutes early, because it seems like the goal is for it to be an hour
Yeah.
meeting.
Often
Oh.
shorter.
Often
Oh,
shorter,
okay,
yeah.
sometimes it's
We're
10
very
minutes.
efficient.
This is the longest one I have been a part
It
of.
depends on the time of year
This-
as
this-
well.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
This is
busier.
our crunch time.
Okay.
This is definitely our crunch time.
Yeah, and I have a super busy March at night
Okay.
for work, but April right now I only have one event. It's
Okay.
April 5th, so.
Okay, so if we left our meeting where it is for March and April, could we reevaluate after that? Do you think
Yeah.
we'll be able to make those two? Okay, okay. Cause I would have to talk to Jamie and see what other times are available,
Yeah.
Yeah.
for us to meet here.
I mean, I can just look real fast, but I don't know.
So our next two meetings would be March the 23rd at 2 and April the 27th at 2.
So the 23rd's okay,
Do I look anxious?
What's your 3?
and the 27th is okay, so.
You look like you're headed to the firing squad.
All right, perfect,
This
and
is
then I will
awesome.
talk to, all right, so
This
can
never
I
happens.
will entertain a motion to adjourn from
So
the
moved.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much,
All right,
Emily.
we are
Yeah.
adjourned.